Hello everyone. So the next topic or the next plant hormone which we will be going to study is about the gibberellins. In these presentations, in these slides, what we will be going to discuss is about what is gibberellin, what is the structure of gibberellin, what is the history of gibberellin, how the scientists came to know about this hormone, then what is the biosynthesis and transport, what are the psychological effects such as stem elongation, then flowering and sex determination, and the seed determination. So all these things will be covered in these slides. So first we will go about the standard definition of plant hormone. Plant hormones basically are the naturally occurring organic substance that profoundly influence the psychological processes at a low concentration, and they are able to exert their action locally or at a distance. So next we will be discussing about what are the types of plant hormones. There are 5 types of plant hormones which are being described here, that is auxins, gibberellins, cytokinins, abscisic acid and ethylene. So we will discuss gibberellin in detail in these slides. So what was the history of gibberellin? How was it discovered? So gibberellin is basically discovered by Kurosawa in Japan in the course of his studies on fungal diseases of rice. So he was studying the topic on fungal diseases of rice, and in Japan he first identified this gibberellin. So in particular he was investigating. So what was he investigating? He was investigating the mechanism by which the fungal pathogen Gibberella fugiculae, which is also renamed as this, leads to foolish seedling disease in rice plants which is infected with this pathogen. So what he found that there was some abnormal growth which was being promoted by the fungi and was due to a compound which is produced by G. fugiculae. The compound was first isolated in 1935 by Yabuta and Sumuki from fungal strains. So, Yabuta he named the isolate as gibberellin. So all the gibberellins are derived from end gibberellin skeleton under the classification of auxins, which are classified on the basis of the function. So gibberellins basically they are classified on the basis of the structure as well as the function. Around 136 gibberellins they are identified from plant, fungi and bacteria. So the gibberellins are named as GA1 to GAN in order of their discovery. So what is the structure here? Basically, there are 19 carbon atoms or 20 carbon atoms. C19 GAs are more biologically active than C20 GAs. So there are certain structural requirements for gibberellin activity. A carboxyl group at the carbon 7 is a feature of all the biologically active gibberellins. So this is the structure of gibberellin, and basically a group of tetracyclic dipyrenoid compounds made up of 4 isoprene units with the end gibberellin ring skeleton function as a plant growth regulator. So this is about the structure and the history of gibberellins. Then what are the functions of gibberellins? The main functions of gibberellins in the plants are the seed determination, organ elongation, dormancy, then flowering, the sex determination in the flowering plants, fruit and leaf senescence, and the expansion through the cell growth. So these are all the functions of gibberellins. We will discuss some of these functions and the psychological effects in detail in the coming slides. Next is biosynthesis and transport. So gibberellins are primarily synthesized in the apical tissues and young leaves. So the highest level of gibberellin is immature seed and developing fruits. It is very uncertain whether root tissues also produce gibberellins, but the highest level of gibberellins are found in immature seeds and developing in fruits. They are basically synthesized by the condensation of 4 isoprenoid subunits. The basic biological isoperon unit is isopentyl pyrophosphate, which condense to produce 20 carbon geranyl pyrophosphate. So we will be discussing in detail about these things, that how the process of biosynthetic pathway takes place. So this GGPP acts as a biosynthetic precursor for glycerins. The glycerins biosynthetic pathway can be divided into 3 ways. So these are the 3 ways. So this ganrylyl pyrophosphate, that is a 20 carbon linear molecule, is converted to N-curine in the plastids. So it gets converted into N-curine in plastids. In the second stage, it is transported from the plastid to the endoplasmic reticulum. And in the endoplasmic reticulum, the N-curine is oxidized to G12. So G12 is the first glycerin in the biosynthetic pathway in all the plants and the precursor of all other glycerins. So the hydroxylation of carbon 13 of Ga12 give rise to Ga53. Ga12 give rise to Ga53 in case of the cytosol. So in cytosol, basically what happens is Ga12 or Ga53, each of which has 20 carbon atom, get converted to other glycerins. For example, if we take the example of C19 GAs, that is the 19 carbon containing GAs, they arise by oxidative elimination of carbon 20 in the form of CO2. So in the next slide, basically this is shown how the whole process is taken place in plastid, then endoplasmic reticulum and the cytosol. So all these things are being described here. So GAs help in the elongation, so that is why it is being described here, that it helps in the elongation. So these are all the pathways, these are all the molecules which are being made and give rise to GAs, that is glycerin, in the cytosol. So the glycerins that are synthesized in the shoot are transported to the rest of the plant via the phloem, and the presence of glycerins in root exudates and the root extracts supports the synthesis of glycerins in roots. Basically, the glycerins are synthesized in the root and are transported to the shoot by the xylem. So the movement of glycerins in plants do not exhibit polarity, but they are capable of moving up and down to the stem. So they have the capability to move up and down to the stem. So this is why the arrow has been shown that it has been moving up and down in the stem. So the previous slide has been showing all these things, and I have told you in detail also about these things, that they are capable of moving up and down in the stem. The glycerins are synthesized in the root and are transported to the shoot via xylem. Then they are synthesized in the root exudates, and root excites and supports the synthesis of glycerins in the root. So all these things are the biosynthesis, and the previous figure basically shows all the mechanism in the process and transport of biosynthesis of glycerins. So now, what are the psychological effects? It includes the stem elongation, the flowering in sex determination, and the seed germination. So we will be discussing all the 3 in detail in the next slides. So first we will go to the stem elongations. That what is stem elongation, how the glycerins play role in the stem elongation, and all these things we will be discussing in the next slide. Stem elongation. The exogenous glycerins promote internodal elongation in genetically dwarf plant species. So what happens is they promote the internodal elongation in genetically dwarf species. So the application of exogenous glycerins to dwarf mutant restores a normal tall phenotype. Basically what happens is glycerin promotes the internodal elongation by targeting the intercapillary meristem, and that leads to the increase in the both cell elongation and the cell division. that leads to both in the cell elongation and the cell division. So elongation of stem pin rosette plants such as spinach and cabbage after the application of glibberin also supports its role in the stem elongation. So they support their role in the stem elongation. So this was about the stem elongation, that how glibberins play role in the elongation of the stem, and if we treat dwarf plants with the glibberins, then they will show a normal tall phenotype. Flowering and sex plants. The role of glibberin in flower induction in reproductively basically competent plants, and has been established in a long day and biennial species. So the flowering in non-inducive conditions can be achieved by application of glibberins. So bolting is basically a normal, it is normally triggered by environmental signals, either photoperiod or a combination of low temperature and photoperiod. So rosette plants basically, they can be induced to bolt by an exogenous application of glibberins. So bolting involves glibberin dependent cell division and elongation, and has been directly correlated with the increased glibberin in the shoot apex. Glibberins can substitute for the long day or cold requirements of flowering plants, and it basically plays role. Its main role is plays in the floral sex determination. In dicot plants such as cucumber and spinach, these are the two examples which I have taken, that in spinach and cucumber, if we apply the application of glibberins in these plants will be to promote the formation of staminate flowers. They promote the formation of staminate flowers. So this is the application of glibberin in these plants. In maize, it suppresses the stamen development. On the other hand, if we talk about maize, it suppresses the stamen development. The next we will be talking about the seed germination. Glibberin causes seed germination by activating the vegetative growth of the embryo and mobilizing stored food reserves of the endosperms by promoting the synthesis of a variety of hydrolytic enzymes that are involved in the solubilization of endosperm reserves. So they cause a seed germination. Glibberins causes seed germination by activating the vegetative growth of the embryo and leads to the store the food of the endosperm by promoting the synthesis of a variety of hydrolytic enzymes that are involved in the solubilization reserves. So this was all about the glibberins, its functions, its structures, its history. All these are being covered in all of these slides. So next is the references. These are the references, these are the papers. These are very nice papers from which I have made the slides and taken the content of glibberin, its functions, its transport, its localization. All of these has been taken from these references. And thank you.